Good morning, boys and girls. My name is Miss Cartessa, and I will be your teacher today. We are going to learn about the first people to live in North America, the Native Americans. Today's lesson is titled Native American Alphabet. I cannot wait to see what we'll learn today. And also, I want you to have paper and pencil ready just in case. By the end of today's lesson, we will be able to describe pictures of the way Native Americans lived using the letters of the alphabet. We will also be able to compare 5 types of homes in which Native Americans lived. So let's get started with a preview of words to listen for during our read aloud today. One word you'll hear today is the word canoe. Canoe is a light, narrow boat made from long, hollowed out logs. The Cherokee tribe moves silently down the river in their canoes. There's a picture there for you. Good. Another word you'll hear today is teepee. Say teepee with me. Teepee. Very good. A teepee is a cone-shaped tent made from long poles covered with animal skins. The Lakota Sioux tribes lived in teepees. Another term to listen for is totem pole. Can you say totem pole? Totem pole, good. Totem poles are wooden logs that are carved, painted, and planted vertically. The totem pole is carved from a single tree trunk. Good. And one last word to listen for is moccasins. Say moccasins. Moccasins, good. Moccasins are soft shoes made of leather, sometimes decorated with beads and feathers. These moccasins kept my feet warm. Before we get to the read aloud, I want to review the 3 tribes that have been discussed so far. They are the Lakota Sioux, the Lenape, and the Wampanoag. You'll hear these names, you will hear the names of other tribes in today's read aloud, such as the Pueblo, Hopi, Iroquois, Navajo, and Zuni Pueblo. So let's take a look at the map. The Lakota Sioux live here in the Great Plains area near North Dakota and South Dakota. The Lenape lived here in the eastern woodlands in New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And the Wampanoag live on the east coast, or bay, in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Now, the other tribes that you will hear about today, the Pueblo, Hopi, Navajo, and Zuni Pueblo, lived in the western part of the United States, which we now know as Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. Are you ready to read? Good. Now, the read aloud for today is a poem, and it has details about different Native American tribes. But not everything in the poem relates to all tribes. Be sure to listen for the names of different Native American tribes, their homes, and the materials used to build each type of home. Also listen for each letter of the alphabet and the object or animal that it represents. Long before you and me, Native Americans were here living free. Many tribes with many names shared this land for all to see. Remember, a tribe is a group of similar people who share common ancestors, customs, and laws. A is for adobe bricks made Pueblo houses. What tribe did I just name here? Yes, the Pueblo. The Pueblo are a Native American tribe that lived in these houses made of stone and sun-dried bricks called adobe. B is for buffalo that galloped across the plains. Long ago, many buffalo roamed the Great Plains and were hunted for food and other things by different Native American tribes. that lived in the vast grassy area of our country. C is for canoes that drifted on silent rivers. How did Native Americans travel on the water? They used a canoe. And a canoe, again, is a long, narrow boat made from long, hollowed out logs or the bark of trees. D is for drum songs sung long ago. E is for elders who led their tribe in prayer. An elder is an older person who is a leader. F is for feast, made up of clams and corn. Clams are a type of seafood. Where do you think these Native Americans lived if they were having clams? Right, they live near the ocean or the bay. Some clams live in the ocean. G is for great tales told with totem poles. Totem poles were carved from logs by certain tribes to tell a story, like sculptures. H is for Hopi ovens that baked warm bread. What tribe did I just name here? Yes, the Hopi. Some Native American tribes cooked their food on an open fire like we saw earlier with the clams and corn. The Hopi tribe baked their breads in this kind of oven. I is for an Iroquois runner on the trail. What tribe did I just name here? Yes, the Iroquois. Native Americans traveled on foot, on horseback, or in canoes. This runner from the Iroquois tribe is very fast. J is for juniper berries used to dye tan blankets. Juniper berries grow on trees and were used to color blankets. K is for Kachina dancers who hoped for rain. Different tribes perform different dances and ceremonies to ask their gods to make things happen or to thank their gods. L is for longhouses built of logs and bark. Several Iroquois Native American families could live in each longhouse, which had little apartments in it and was about the size of 5 classrooms. Think about that, boys and girls. 5 classrooms in one house. M is for moccasins made of leather and beads. Moccasins are shoes worn by many Native American tribes. Some of them were decorated with beads to make them more colorful. N is for Navajo, who herded flocks of sheep. What tribe did I just name here? Yes, the Navajo. O is for ornaments, which made clothing more beautiful. Native American tribes often decorated their clothing with beads. P is for powwows, held now and then. In the past, when a group of Native Americans gathered for a meeting, it was called a powwow. Today, when Native Americans meet to dance, sing, and honor Native American culture, it may also be called a powwow. Q is for quills from porcupines used for weaving. R is for rugs woven on a loom. A loom is a wooden frame, and the rugs will be woven on them with thick strings such as wool. S is for salmon, cooked in a woven basket. If these baskets were directly over the fire, they would burn. Instead, the Native Americans dropped hot stones into a basket of water to make it boil. then put their food in a basket to cook. Interesting. T is for teepees made with buffalo hides. The hides are the skins of the animal. Like Pueblo houses and longhouses, teepees were homes for some Native Americans. Listen for the name of those homes. U is for under. The Navajo slept under hogan roofs. What do you think this is in the picture? Of course, this is a home for the Navajo. What tribe did I just name here? All right, the Navajo. V is for venison stew made for Iroquois travelers. This man from the Iroquois tribe is eating venison or deer meat from his bowl. W is for Wampanoag Wetuws, set near the coast. What tribe did I just name here? The Wampanoag, good, and they lived in Wetuws. Also, what is the name of the boats you see in this picture? Yes, those are canoes. X is for X's, which decorated tribal dress. Y is for young children who listen to stories. And Z. Z is for the Zuni Pueblo, who crafted water jars. And what tribe did I name there? The Zuni Pueblo. Good. Boys and girls, thank you for listening to our story. I'm going to ask you some comprehension questions. So take a look at the picture and let's see if we can name some things that Native Americans used to make the homes that we discussed in our read aloud. What was used to create the teepee or the adobe house or the wetu or the hogan house and the long houses? Yes, they use buffalo skin or hides. They use logs or bark for the long houses. And they even use adobe brick. Good. How were some of the homes the same and how were some different? Think about that. How were they the same? They all were used as a form of shelter. Yes, they lived in each one of them. They used them for their homes, but they used the different resources they had available. Teepees were made out of animal skin. The long houses were made out of logs or bark. How were they different? Yes, they were made of different materials. And look at all the different shapes and sizes. So they look different. Now, let's name some of the different foods that were eaten by some Native American tribes that you heard about in the read aloud. Just take a look. Yes, I see clams. I see salmon. I see venison or deer meat. And what did they bake in the Hopi oven? Yes, they baked bread. Good job. What are some things that some Native American tribes did that you heard about in the read aloud? Take a look at the pictures. Yes, we see that they played drums, they had powwows, they listened to stories, they made rugs and blankets, they herded sheep. So many different things. One last question. Why are there so many different types of homes and food eaten and ways of traveling? Think about that. Why are there so many different ways of doing things and the different types of homes and the food they ate? Why was it different? I can hear you thinking. Yes, there are so many Native American tribes. There were so many, and they're spread out across the United States and North America. There were so many of them, so that's why there are so many different types of homes, food eaten, and ways of traveling. Great job, boys and girls. All right, now let's do a think, pair, share. I want you to think and share what you know, okay? Now, you may find a partner for this activity. It could be your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, or your friend. I'm going to ask a question, and I'll give you a minute to think about it. And then I will ask you to turn to your partner to discuss that question, and you take turns sharing your answer. The question is, do the Native American tribes described in the read aloud all seem the same to you, or do you notice any differences among them? What were some things that were the same, and what were some things that were different? Share your answer with your partner. I can hear you thinking. Now, some things that Native Americans, the Native American tribes that we discussed in the read aloud had in common were they built their own homes, they made their own clothing, and they hunted for their own food. Some things that were different were the different types of homes they lived in, the different use of their materials, and the different foods they ate, and even their location was different. Did you and your partner discuss any of those? Great, great. Now we're going to do a little word work. In the read aloud, you heard M is for moccasins, made of leather and beads. Say the word moccasins with me. Moccasins, good. Moccasins are soft shoes made of leather, often decorated with beads and feathers. Many Native American people wore moccasins to protect their feet as they walked through the Great Plains. Boys and girls, I want you to think, how are moccasins similar to the shoes that we wear, the other shoes that we wear? How are they different? Try to use the word moccasins when you tell about it. You could say moccasins are similar to the shoes I wear in that they are, or moccasins are different from the shoes I wear in that they are. So let me give you some examples. One way moccasins are similar is that moccasins are similar to shoes I wear in that they protect my feet. One way they're different, moccasins are different to the shoes I wear in that they don't have, my other shoes don't have feathers or beads, and then my other shoes are made out of different material. Did you come up with some of those? Good, I wish I could hear your answers. I know I can hear you. All right, so what word have we been talking about? Moccasins, very good, moccasins. All right, we'll do one last activity. Now, this activity is a drawing activity. So you can take out that paper and pencil I mentioned at the beginning. I'm going to show you two pictures from the read aloud, and you will help me label and write a sentence about my drawing, about the picture, okay? Do you know what this is a picture of? That's right, it's a clam. Let me get my marker. That's right, it is a clam. And do you remember what tribe ate clams? That's right, the Wampanoag. They live right there on the coast near the bay. So they could eat lots of clams. So I'm going to write the word clam here. C-L-A-M, clam. Good. You can write the word on your paper. All right, now let's think of a sentence with the word clam. Let me think. I could say, I see the clam by the bay. What do you think of my sentence? Okay, let's write that. I'm going to start with the capital letter. I see the clam by the bay. And I'm going to end with my period. Good. So we have our picture of a clam, we have the word clam, and now we have a sentence. I see the clam by the bay. Good. Let's look at this other picture. This is a picture of a teepee. Teepee. Do you remember what tribe lived in teepees that were made of buffalo hide? The Lakota Sioux lived in teepees, right? Let's write the word teepee. It's spelled T-I-P-I. Now let's think of a sentence with the word teepee. I can take a look at the teepee and tell it, to me it looks like a tent to me. So that's what my sentence will say. The teepee looks like a tent. Help me write my sentence. The, capital letter T, the teepee looks like, put my S, looks like a tent. All right, the teepee looks like a tent. All right, I wish I could read your sentences, boys and girls. I know you have some great ones on your paper. Good. Now, remember, today we talked about the 3 different tribes, the Lakota Sioux, the Lenape, and the Wampanoag. And we even mentioned Iroquois a few times, so I know you saw that on the map also. And I'm sorry, boys and girls, we're running out of time today, but I want you to make sure you share what you learned today about the different Native American tribes we talked about. All rights and credits for today's lesson belong to Core Knowledge Language Arts. We would like to thank them publicly for sharing these valuable resources. The views and opinions expressed in this lesson are those of Core Knowledge authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Mississippi Department of Education. Thank you for joining us, boys and girls. We'll see you next time.